artist, and I don't know a lot about her credentials. I only know about her as a person. And it's been quite wonderful to get to know her in the 6 years that she's lived in Minot. And I'm happy to introduce her. She'll tell you about her credentials. So please welcome Susana.
Greg. Ta-da! It's here. Okay, now, is that better? Yeah. Okay, great, thank you. Well, my credentials, I went to school like all of you and got my bachelor's from, I was in Denver at the time. I got my bachelor's in art from Metro State University. Used to be Metropolitan State College. It changed. Then I got my graduate degree a few years later from the University of Denver, DU. And then a few years later, I went to NYU for a visiting scholar program, which was in performance studies. So, and those are the basic stuff, because I've been doing a lot of different things, and I'm so much older now that, life story is too long. So I brought some pictures so that I can show you, let me see how this works. Yay! Okay, this is Caracas. This is the city I was born and grew up in, did all my, basic studies, and I actually started college there. Oh, this is higher now. Let's see, how do I do this? So Caracas is a beautiful city. It's in a valley, and I'm going to show you a couple of pictures from here. Let's see. Oh, I can control this too, I think. Okay, this is one of the neighborhoods, the streets. And I thought to bring a couple of these pictures because when I say Caracas, Venezuela, it's still very abstract. People don't have an image in their head of what it looks like or what it's, what kind of light is there. And so this was a little courtyard in the National Gallery of Art, and I used to spend a lot of time there as a child. So that was sort of my first contact with, art, visual arts. And if you can see the back sculpture there, it's a calder. We have lots of calders in the city. He was a friend of one of the major architects, and created a lot of work for the city, public sculptures, and he did a major theater in the Universidad Central, which is the main university, and there are special panels for the theater. So let's see. Then I moved to Denver. That was after my first year of college, and that's when I thought I was going to be a scientist, and I had registered for some sort of science. I thought I was going to work in physics or something serious, because everything else was not so serious, and I had to do, my family was a serious family, and you had to do something important, not important, valuable. And so the arts were fine, and I was exposed to all of it, but it wasn't all that, serious. So I moved to Denver, and then when I did, and I had just married. It was my first husband. I only have a second husband, so just married twice. But I realized I could really go and choose whatever I wanted. So it wasn't like I was so tied up to the idea of continuing with science. I did for a year. I still tried and tried for another year. I thought I needed to do all this. And I had to learn your language, which was pretty difficult. So it took another year for that. And so Denver was sort of my second home. And I was there for about 7 years. So I did undergraduate and graduate work there. But then I went back, and at that time I'm just still in foundations and basic studies, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. But I went back home, or we went back home, and started visiting this area of the country, which is magical. It's just amazing. It's the Amazonian plateau. It's one of the oldest plateaus in the world. So Canaima, and this is Angel's Fall. Angel's Fall because it was discovered by a guy named Angel. The natives had a different name for it, but you know, that's kind of forgotten, and this is how it's known in the world. It's one of the highest, it's the highest waterfall, I think. The whole area around it, again, is just, this is another part of the Canaima area with the flat tepuis. The tepuis are the flat mountains. So that was, to me, I was awestruck. I was like so, struck. I couldn't believe this was like another planet. And this was like another reality. And I'm thinking, my God, you know, nobody really knows about it. Or you know about it, but you have to experience it to really feel it. And then I started doing a lot of my paintings and works based on those atmospheres and trying not to paint the landscape, but to capture the landscape in, this is another one, another view of one of the, this is Roraima, and it's an amazing mountain, like a tepui. It's really high. You can't really climb all of these. You have to kind of fly through with a helicopter. And I did one or two of those. It was one. It was great. I was just fortunate that I just happened to be there with a guy that had a helicopter, and they offered me a ride, and I said, yes, I'll go. And it is amazing. It really is like you're in another planet, basically. So I started working pieces that reflected not just feelings, but the atmospheres and the energy of the place. And it was about landscape and about place, but it wasn't a figurative representation of that landscape. And I didn't really want that. I kind of wanted to capture the essence of it, not just the image. And so here, my waterfall. This is, I want to say, mid-80s or something like that. And this one, this one is, I named it 2 times for the Ilu. Ilu was the name of one of those tepuis, one of those mountains. One of those that's always surrounded by mist and fog, and you can't really get there, not even with a helicopter. So that was, to me, that was always kind of like the mysterious mountain, you know. And I had a plan. I thought one day I was going to go there and spend 3 nights and 3 days all by myself. And everybody thought I was crazy. And I almost did it, but then I got scared. Then I thought, what if something happens and nobody's around? And, you know, I kind of wanted to do like this retreat. In my head, it was just very, you know, ideal. And I thought, oh, maybe I get illuminated when I'm there. But then I didn't. It was complicated and dangerous, and they talked me out of it, and I said, okay, fine, you know, I'll do something else. But so I made paintings about it. And this is one of the paintings. This is a picture of Robert Wilson, which doesn't seem to have anything to do with it right now, but he was a very important figure as I was developing my work. And this is, again, mid-80s as well. And I was visiting New York, and he was presenting a piece that was just fundamental for me, because it was a piece named Hamlet Machine by Heiner Müller. And Müller was a playwright, a German playwright. And that was at NYU. And I thought, I didn't know what to think about it. I was just, again, sort of like awestruck again. It was just like, what just happened? This was the first time I was seeing theater that was not theater. It was visual theater, and he had a lot of symbolic content. And then I thought, okay, I have to study these people. I have to study Wilson, I have to study Müller, and I have to go to NYU. Those were like, you know, the 3 things that kind of stuck with me. And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try to find out how I'm going to do it. So that piece, again, and it's online, you probably can see pictures and stuff. It's Hamlet Machine by Müller. And it's been staged or presented in other countries in Europe, and he's pretty big in Europe, but he's an American playwright and director and major artist. I hope you get to know him sometime. There's a full documentary on Bob Wilson as well. But he kind of, with that in mind, and I'm keeping his picture there, I thought, okay, I'm going to go to NYU and ask how I'm going to do this. You know, just like that, very innocent, very naive. And I asked, you know, can I talk to somebody, like somebody? And and they said, yeah, you want a faculty? Yeah, I want to know about your performance studies. And I already have my graduate degree, and I want to do more. And so I got in, and, you know, this nice lady, very New York lady, just says, okay, you have 5 minutes, what do you want? And, and I thought, oh, okay, here are my pictures, this is my work, and I want to do some studies here because I saw this piece and I was fascinated, and I really want to learn more about it. She said, okay, leave me that work, and I'll call you if I think about it, you know, and if I think we can do something. And 2 days later, she calls me and she says, well, if you're interested, we can invite you. Just like that. And I thought, you always have to ask. Always. Don't get shy, don't start thinking about the things that might not happen, because I was pretty bold and I went to ask, and they said yes. So that's when I started getting more involved into performance space and performative work, and that took me to the theater. And that was after I did this kind of one semester at NYU. A friend of mine who was also a playwright and director in Caracas called me, and he said, I have a piece for you, and I want you to do the scenic design. And so the piece was about a painter, a Venezuelan painter, Armando Reverón, that was very well known in the country, and this was it's about his life. So, and I told him, you got the wrong person, I'm not a scenic designer. Just don't call me. And he said, no, I don't want a scenic designer, I want you, because I want a painter. So, and that's how I got, again, hooked. It was like, this was a new world and a new space and a new kind of dynamic and relationship with the theater, and text. And that was the other thing that I wanted to bring in, because text became an important part of, so I'm going to show you quickly. These were also kind of fitted in my work because there were layers and transparencies, and things were adding up and working. The idea of the director was to work with different times at the same time. Amazing, but it was about time. The life of this painter in the past, in the present, in the future. And he did it with different layers of curtains. And those curtains were all handmade by me, and we created the designs and painted, so they were all kind of crafted and handmade, and it was quite an experience. I almost got sick with it because it was so much pressure, and it was a scary time, but they were fabulous. So it was all about, it was like what I call a soft scenic design. Everything was made with fabrics. Places were created with fabric and lighting. So the lighting was also important, and that's when I became more aware of how important lighting is when you have anything, a show, an event. And I mean, lighting is the other half of your design and of your project, and it creates a lot of stuff, creates moods. So I went from that to explore more installation type works. So this is an installation that was also collaborative. I was working with another friend of mine, a playwright, a woman. And we came up with a concept of having, like, this was a big gallery, but we had a closed-in, we made it an enclosed. So we had 4 chairs and 4 of those images that were photos of the painting, but they were transferred into Duratrans boxes. Those are commercial, light boxes that you see, in the street, or they're amazing. But they gave me a grant to pay for that, so that was also great. I was very grateful and happy, and I said, we can make this. So we did that, and the piece was called, and like, to look at this, and everybody wondered why, and we only let people look at it for 4 minutes. So, once you enter that little theater, you could only stay there for 4 minutes, and they were all kind of upset, that was not enough time, that was too little. 4 minutes is not enough, and I said, well, it's based on the statistics and that I had read, that people usually spend 4 seconds in front of a piece of work. They walk by and they don't spend more than 4 seconds, unless you're an artist or somebody, a historian, an art critic, somebody that really has a more invested interest. But other than that, regular audience will not spend much time looking at stuff. And so that was a comment on that little thing, like, okay, now you have 4 minutes. It's a lot more than 4 seconds. But then you had chairs, and people, and they said, can we stay more? Psychological too, If you tell somebody that they only have a certain amount of time, then it's never enough time. It's a time that expires, and then I want to use it all. Which was kind of really neat and interesting. That was another set design that I did with the same, with the same first director. And this was more three-dimensional. I don't know if you've seen the show. Some of you have on one of the walls that look three-dimensional. They're like almost wedges. It kind of all started with this piece, because they were like ramps, and that gave me the idea of paintings that could be three-dimensional and that could be pretty much about surface, but also somehow play with the architecture of the space and play with the space itself of whatever room it was. And then I had a series of these, and I'm only bringing one, I think, of these paintings, and this one, which was, this was also very much about my first interest, water and the Angels Fall area and the Canaima area, which was, it's all about water over there too. And it's beautiful and luscious. And okay, this is moving forward on one piece from this show, which was my interpretation of Heiner Müller's one piece that he had written to be staged. He said it was a piece to be staged in any form, but it didn't have a dialogue. It was like a continuous kind of text that it would just go on and on and on. And he called it synthetic fragments, and that was a new form that he was developing in terms of text and how to, it didn't make much sense. You had to read it like 100 times to get some of the meaning, but it was very intense, and it was about a dream. This was called Explosion of a Memory, description of a picture, and it was based on a picture that a child had made of a dream. And then he found it really interesting and found it really, so that the things that inspire you can be so random. For him, it was this drawing of a child. And he thought it was very Freudian. I can't remember exactly why, but I can imagine. And, he talks about, describes the space, and there is a murder in that play. And it's like a 4-page, it's a short thing. But it was, to me, it was like fascinating, and I took like 2-3 years to work with that text and develop the show. So this was the show, and this was the entrance to the show as well. So it was all related to the text. And Efraín, we were married already, and Efraín, my husband here, did the environmental sound, which was another element that I wanted to add in the exhibition. And that was whispers and me reading the text of Heiner Müller, and he made a great job because everybody thought it was kind of creepy and mysterious. And I thought, good, we're getting to the essence of the play, of the piece. So, sorry, I don't have the sound here, but it's kind of like something like that. It's such a, and sometimes you can hear words, but it was very, I don't know, subtle, but it would, oh, you can find it in YouTube. Under what? Under your name? It's called Explosion of a Memory. Your name or my name? I don't know. Well, YouTube. It should be there. And so we, this is clepsydra in its original form. This was the installation we created for this piece that was supposed to be the celebration of the new millennia. So we were moving into the year 2000 and everybody was, you know, kind of excited and worried and everything was happening. And they gave us this, this was in Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania, so we were here. And Efraín had this idea of making a piece where, again, past, present, and future will fuse and become one, and there is no past, no future, there are all these three times together. So I wrote the lyrics with a friend of mine, Carol Chabon, and he was going to do the music. My daughter was doing the video, which is in the show. It's an archival kind of video, 21 years old now. So the live performance was with the actual singers and ensemble of musicians, and they were playing live as with the pre-recorded two other tracks or parts of the music. So the paintings were meant to be more like, really like an installation. So I was thinking more theater, more like set design kind of thing. But there were four of those actually that I kept working and revisiting, and three of those are the ones in the show right now. So those three kind of survived the time, endured a lot of changes, and that was our original clepsydra, which we didn't, keep. But now we have a beautiful new clepsydra that Linda made for us, and it's gorgeous. So when you see it, remember, it's a water clock. Clepsydra is supposed to measure time different from a sundial, because you can use it at night. And it was used for rituals, like priests, and in ancient times it was a very, I guess a very useful thing to have to measure time. So this is another one of the pieces that was changed, but you can probably see a little bit of that one in there. This was just from my period of just painting in between these two things. So I go back and forth, It's like painting and then scenic design and then installations and then text and then, maybe writing some opera, maybe some going into all this. Okay, this is started in 2005, and we connected with this choreographer from Germany who was in Pennsylvania, and he wanted to have some very unique solo piece where he could do, develop also from a text that was coming from a story that was Mimun. Mimun was the story by a Spanish writer. And so we created the space that was meant to be a desert, kind of like a space, and very hot and very dramatic. So that's also part of the piece. That's a huge ladder. It goes all the way up to in the theater, it goes, you can't really see the end of it. It's really nice. So painting again, sort of same motifs. When I'm already mixing, space and ideas and how this would look, this was actually placed in a recital in Pittsburgh for, a pianist friend of ours. And So that was another kind of venue. So I was always finding different venues for this kind of work. This is more recent, back in Philadelphia, like paintings, and again back again to another piece by Andrei Kozlovsky. Right now it's Tense Theater, Andrei Kozlovsky, if you want to look it up. There's a really neat website for it. And this is a piece that he called Por la blanda arena, which means by the soft sand. Also, dance theater is not dance, and it's not theater. It's this new category where movement is important, is symbolic. And that's like Bob Wilson as well. Movements are extremely carefully studied and manipulated. And it's not just about the dialogue or the scene, but it's really about the visual of it. So he was, so we projected some waterfall again in front of that. This is the same piece. So we use these greens to play with lighting as well, so they could move and open and create different spaces. This was back in Pennsylvania. Little painting. This is, again, in between. This is another piece, and I only have one photo of this because I figure we have too many. But we used trash for this set design. Lots of trash. It was like huge amount. I mean, it was never enough because I said, well, if you're going to make a scenic design with trash, we need a lot of trash, like a lot. But it had to be recyclable and plastics, and nothing had, they were going to walk on it, so no glass. There was all these little things that you have to think about. But it was a wonderful experience. And I was starting to learn that you can really use anything and make it beautiful, like even trash. If you can work with trash and make something kind of meaningful. And he created a space that was apocalyptic and that it was, bare, and it had a lot of intention and meaning, and it worked. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful thing. So, talking about text, this is about a book that I was making, that I made with my friend Carol. So we had then a little show with the book, and the texts were kind of written on the wall as well. So we had the poems, kind of dancing like this. And this was Chatham University. I want to say, I think shortly before I moved here, maybe 2014 or so. So, painting again, this is just examples of my work. This one I showed here, I think if you have seen any of the other shows, you probably remember this one. I go back from working with the text or subtext and going into full mode of atmospheric ideas and spaces. So another one here, which has, some people ask me about the iridescence on the surface, and it's really iridescent paint. And that's created with powder mica. Mica is beautiful because it doesn't react with the paint, it's neutral, it's great for conservation, and it creates that shimmer. You just have to be really careful because if you abuse it, it looks really bad. So it's the only thing. And this is the last work we did like 4 years ago, 4 years ago. And with Andre. And so Efraín was also helping, and he's the consultant for music and for sound, and so on. So we've made this kind of really wonderful team over the years, and we've been working with him 15, 16 years now. So cooperation is great, is wonderful. It makes you open up and get new ideas, and you get to see how other people think, and I think we all in the arts, we're just trying to figure out what life is. Basically, it's like other people want to figure out how to, I don't know, make a good living. And we probably should, but this is more about figuring it out, you know, like what is this life about, and what are we doing here, and why am I painting, or why am I, and we're like, I'm at least I am constantly asking myself the same questions, you know, like big questions. Okay, about time, about life, about all of that. So this is the last picture, and the title of this piece is This Little Bit of Life, which I thought was a wonderful title that he picked. And 4 dancers, 4 performers. This was created, presented in Pennsylvania, again, 3 or 4 years ago. And I think that's the end. And now I'm open for questions and whatever you want to ask. If I have the answer, So it's a synthesis. It's a very resumed, very short story of all the stuff that has been happening.
Critique
Yes.
of your show.
Oh.
This is from our esteemed colleague, Walter Peel. He says, I would like to remind everyone about Susana's exhibition at the Northwest Arts Center at Minot State University. The work is stunning in its size and the amazing color and designs of the painting. It's rare that Minot gets to see an exhibit of paintings with such a presence. Susana is to be congratulated. Walter.
Oh, thank you.
Here you are.
Oh, that was
All right,
very
who's got
nice.
questions?
Of Walter. Yeah, Virginia. Ask.
Okay, so it seemed like a big theme, like kind of like at the end of your talk, was like, you know, through art we have to figure out what life is, and like, is that like?
Well, we don't have to.
Does everybody have like the same?
We don't
Is
have
it
to.
like existentialism, like where everyone has something different, or like, do we have things in common when we find the answer? Like,
I think we have things in common. I don't think we have to ask those questions, but those questions come up. You know, and you might not be consciously thinking, "Oh, I have to figure it out." Okay, that's not how it works. It's more suddenly you think, I'm thinking about it, or through the work. Actually, your work helps you think and helps you figure out a lot of things, and that's why I love the process of the work, because through the work you answer yourself a lot of questions. You know, they're not scientific questions, they're more philosophical questions. But you don't have to, you know, and sometimes people go, you know, like, does it have to be conceptual? Does it have to be, well, if your mind goes there, yeah, that's fine. You know, where does your being go? Because you kind of step into a different reality, you know. And when it makes you wonder and it makes you stop your thinking and you go, like when I told you, you know, I wasn't sure what had happened. I thought, what was that? But the images stuck in my head. I just had those images for a long, long time, you know, like, and the movements, it was so well done that I could remember sounds, and not necessarily like the storyline, but I could remember like the whole, like as a gestalt. So that was really important. That was nice for me. So, no, but you don't have to figure out anything. No. And the idea is that the art will drive you to it, will let you do that. And art, for us, the medium is visual arts. It could be music or theater or dance or literature that change and that start to happen outside and inside. You know, what happens outside also reflects inside, and vice versa. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Sorry, long answer. But
Susana, I have a question.
yeah.
You spoke to studying in college, or you're trying to be serious, do some science thing, and then what happened? Because then we jumped in the story to like, here's some paintings that I made, and here, like, that's a pretty big jump.
When I moved to Denver, I was still kind of stuck in the idea that I had to go into science. You know, I was like, stubborn. I thought, okay, no, I have to do this, the right way. But then when I was there and I was feeling a little more free and more out of my own, country and context, and everything was sort of new and possible, And I remember this, that I was always passionate about art, and I thought, why not? Mark this off and put art in there, and there you go. You just, they transfer all my credits from the first year, which were science, and they said, no, this will work as foundation studies. It's fine. You can only concentrate on art right now. And I was in heaven. I was really like, you know, I had to come here to find this and to find a little bit of myself, because I was sort of like stuck in that idea that I had to do something more, you know, more valuable. But, you know, but this is as valuable. And this is another thing I discovered throughout the years. This is completely as valuable, and if maybe more. You know, I think the arts might be more valuable because they really refer to the collective, and they refer to, they give us, I don't know, an aesthetic. Or anybody wants to ask anything? Yeah.
Hi, Susana.
Hi.
I want to say that I saw your show last night, and it was very beautiful and
Thank
very
you.
moody. And I want to say that a lot of the pieces, if not all the pieces, were reminiscent to me of Mark Rothko. And
Oh,
from what I know about him, he was a very disturbed and dark person, so his work captured that. And you seem so opposite that. You're cheerful and you're pleasant, but your work shows, you use very dark color palettes, and I'm just wondering, maybe if that's your style, you like working with maybe capturing darker feelings, darker themes, because also the photos that you were showing are so beautiful and vibrant and like nature, but then your interpretations of them are the opposite of that. So
because and I've had that question before, actually. You know, there was a time when people asked me, "Are you depressed?" Because they're so dark. I go, no, actually, I found it really comforting, and it was like, you know, being in a womb or being at night in the, you know, it was almost like a night, comforting and just kind of really cozy and different. Not bubbly happy, but really embracing, and I felt good. I felt good with that. So I hope it doesn't give you, like, you know, the idea of darkness, but more of depth, and maybe, you know, like that moment when we are not really in this world, but we are inside of ourselves. Like, so it's a more of an inner world that that might be the direction. I also think, you know, paintings or any kind of images tend to be a little bit like mirrors to ourselves, you know, like how we see ourselves, and we don't really, for both the maker and the viewer. So we pick up things in there that are meaningful to us, or that have a reference in our background, or that connect to some of our history. And that's different for everybody. And that's why it's also kind of fascinating. Everybody's going to have a different perception of that, you know. Some people were saying last night, a couple of my friends, that one of those darker pieces reminded them of like currents, like deep in the sea or deep in the ocean. That was like, and I thought, oh, that's kind of, yeah, right direction, but you know, it could be anything. So, yeah, I don't know. I think we both have both sides. We all have this, you know, kind of light, bright, colorful, and this darker side too. We're so dual in that sense that, but you can't be, you know, you can't deny one or the other. So, but I don't know. Did I answer your question? I hope so. Okay, I think we're done, right? Or
Well, just about. I have a
about?
question. I
Yeah.
don't know if anyone else does. Does anyone else have a question before I ask mine? I would like you to speak just to the benefits of collaboration. Why is that important for artists to collaborate?
Oh, yeah. well, I fell in love with it basically when I started studying all this other forms, and also performative space and performative text, which is another thing. Performative text is not like in theater, it's a more complicated idea, which is some people write the text and the reading of it is and you don't have to read it out loud, but the reading of it becomes the performance itself. Anyway, the benefits of collaboration are that you open yourself up to other ideas and other people and their knowledge and their suggestions. And you also kind of become a better person because, you learn to tolerate and to understand other people. You're not just hiding, in your little space. You're open to cooperate. And it could be at many levels. It doesn't have to be a big production, but it could be, like I was cooperating with my friend Carol in doing this book, or I'm collaborating with Efraín when we do operas, like chamber operas, and I write the libretto and he writes the music and we work together, and it becomes like a really nice dynamic. But you have to be open. You can't just, and you have to be open to be challenged as well. Not everything you say is going to be great and fine and right. It's like, no, I don't like this. And you go, okay, what about that? And why not? And then there is dialogue, and the dialogue is important. And I think it's not so easy for some people. It depends on the personality of everybody, but everyone, for me, was wonderful and revealing, and it gave me that huge opportunity to learn from others as well. So I've learned a lot from working with other artists and other people. And that to me is valuable because, we're human beings and we need that interaction. We need that, to be open to know other people. And that involves a lot of things. It involves tolerance, it involves appreciation, involves, and the other person, you might have, different ideas, but then you learn to come together. So I think that's one of the benefits. And there are probably more, but one of the benefits is, and then it's great when something happens out of that. It's like you have this product, this piece, this thing that's like amazing, and you go, we did it. And even with this show, it was a lot of cooperation. For Greg to design the show itself and the lighting, and for you helping us with, this one artifact, because this is pretty much what it was. This is an, ancient artifact. And the idea that, we were all kind of working with each other without bothering each other. But, at the same time, it's like it's like this dance, which is really nice. So, yep.
So have you ever wanted to travel anywhere else to show off your work?
Yeah, of course. I did. I have. One of those, I can't remember, one of those paintings was part of an exhibition in London. That was a time where Venezuela was a normal country, and we had a normal democracy, and it was all going well. And so they would actually offer some artists the opportunities to travel. So I was able to go, and show there, and also Mexico. And they did they promoted like a real nice exhibition that was on tour. So it went through Europe, and then came back to New York, and but that was sort of like a small group exhibition. That was probably, let's say maybe 7 of us, and that was also kind of a nice experience because we were also able to go and be there for the receptions and the openings and see the space and again connect with other people. But that's also amazing. That's great too. Yeah. Oh yeah, and if they invite me again, I'll go again. Oh yeah, yeah. And in the country and outside of the country, and yeah, that would be, I'm always honored when that happens. It's like, yes, I want to. Right now, last year was difficult to move anywhere, but things are opening up again, I think. So hopefully we'll do more traveling. And it's like with music also is great to bring it to other places and countries. And so that was another thing we experienced at some point. So, all right, anything else? Is that it? Yeah.
Well,
Do you prepare your own canvases?
Yeah. They used to make me go to the lumber yard when I was in school and go to the wood shop and cut everything and measure and do the right thing. And it became kind of time-consuming, exhausting, and, really difficult at one point, after. So I started just getting pre-cut stretchers, and I built the stretchers that way, with crossbars and stuff, and then I stretched the canvas and I primed the canvas. And that's like the time for meditation. It's like your pre-production time. So it's great, I know some people have it made or they buy it already made, but you get used to that time of sort of pre-thinking when there are no concepts formed yet. And that's another thing I was interested in. It was a concept that a psychiatrist was working on, and that was the concept of endocepts. And he called endocepts those concepts that you have before you have language. So as a child, you have concepts, but they don't have form. So he called them endocepts. And I was, again, kind of fascinated by that. And he was a very big writer, a psychiatrist, but big writer on creativity. His name is Silvano Arietti, an Italian guy, an Italian psychiatrist. Yeah.
What was your art like in the past? Like, how art changes, like, every...
Well, actually, I was very figurative at the beginning. I had lots of figure drawings and with color and pastels and, very expressive. And so I kind of moved into, I got kind of tired. That's what happened. I got kind of tired of not finding more in there. And I know some people can, but I couldn't. So I slowly moved into more abstract forms. What I did was I started enlarging some of those drawings to the point that I couldn't recognize them. And when I couldn't recognize them, I still could see the whole picture in my head, but people couldn't. I was like, I had these big canvases that were more about fragments of an image. And that's how I sort of started moving into that direction. So, yeah, it changed. I don't have any examples here, but yes, it changed dramatically from undergraduate to graduate school. So that was, when I finished undergraduate, I was very figurative and, loved drawing and loved the expressive quality of color. But then, I had one teacher that told me I didn't know how to use color. And I was like devastated. I'm going like, what do you mean? I use color. And she said, you color, but you don't use color. And I'm going, oh my God, what does that mean? I color and I don't use color. And so I thought I should understand that. And I started working my way up to color. And I said, okay, I'm going to have to go back to black and white. And then from there, move into color. And first understand value really well through, and then start adding color and see how that relates and how that talks to me. And then I loved color again. And she, I think she was right. But I didn't understand it. And I just wanted to understand it. And I asked her, and she said, well, look at works and look at other people, look at other artists. And I said, I do. But what do you mean? And so I asked everybody, and nobody knew what it meant, really. But now I do. Now I understand what it means. like colors that don't talk to each other, that don't connect. I mean, yes, you might be coloring like a coloring book, but then they don't do anything for you, or they don't function as space, or they don't function. I mean, color has functions too. So functions as space, or functions as emotions, or as symbols. So there are many layers to color as well. So everything's about learning.
All right, please thank Susana for her presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, and I hope you visit the show if you haven't, and give me some feedback. I'm open to feedback, always, from everybody. So, thank you.